How you doing? Welcome to another episode of the Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast where we analyze, we scrutinize, and we celebrate the rise of Skywalker, one glorious minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.fun.
And I'm Kelly Anneken, co-host of Blood Hive, a Yellow Jackets recap podcast available wherever podcasts are not sold.
There really needs to be a term for that.
What I'm saying is I don't make any money.
That's why you have to go to your hilarious Patreon.
What I hear most often is wherever you get your
right
podcasts.
Yeah, there needs to be a...
Just,
If anybody knows where podcasts are sold, please let us all know.
We and our families depend on this information.
Well, thanks for coming back, Kelly. We are talking about minute 63 of The Rise of Skywalker. 63, for those of you keeping score at home. It starts off with Kylo Ren dodging a lightsaber slash from an angry Rey, and it ends a minute later with a skeptical Force Order trooper taking a shot in the neck. Neck-ish. Neck adjacent.
Right.
Does Rey know who Darth Vader was? Does she recognize the helmet as being Darth Vader? Or is she like, this is just some piece of junk? I guess we don't know what Darth Vader's status is in terms of how famous he is or was in the galaxy to begin with.
Well, we do hear Kylo Ren talk about his mother being Vader's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Kylo Ren feels like the kind of person who comes up with a monologue and practices it in the mirror and does not actually think about the person that he will deliver the monologue to, or whether they have all the information he has. I guess, did they talk about Vader in the previous two in this trilogy? She was with Luke for a long time. At some point, it must have been yeah, my dad was real
right.
We made up before he died.
And it's unclear how long she was actually there. We only see one evening of training going on. So it's, he definitely mentions Darth Sidious.
Yeah, that's what I like. This is later in the movie when she's talking to Luke's Force Ghosts. They should have subtitled this movie "Too Many Force Ghosts." They're everywhere. It's
like
an
screwball
infestation.
comedy.
Get the Ghostbusters in here. Don't get me started on the screwball comedy part of it, because we'll get there. But I got some hot takes. And Luke is talking about the last night of Leia's training, and I'm like, there's a last night of training for a Jedi? I think I understand why you have been wiped out. You just got done. I mean, Leia just gave up. She's like, oh, I'm done training, and you know what? I'm hanging up my lightsaber until I have to die to save my son. That's how this works.
Well, a lot of people, she doesn't.
Not doing yourselves. Or is it, they're not doing themselves any favors here.
So
yeah, definitely not. I mean, on the other side of it, though, when Rey is like, "Oh, the dark side. I was mad one time, but I don't want to be on the dark side." I think not wanting to be on the dark side should automatically disqualify you from being on the dark side.
Well, but it sneaks up on you. Remember, Luke, she was getting this all from Luke, too, who's just look, really, just don't let it, all it takes is you lash out in anger, and then the next thing you know, you're cutting off your dad's hand, and you're like, what have I done?
Or you're trying to murder your nephew.
Yeah, I'm like, that, we'd need more time for me to really dig into that, but I just feel like the Sith are letting everyone else define the terms of this debate, and then therefore the outcome. Because they're just like, oh, yeah, the dark side. And everybody's like, that's bad. And if you even think about it, then you're automatically on the dark side. I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
You said dark side.
Lifetime.
Now you're a Sith. Oh.
I want a broadsword lightsaber then. Fine. Fine. I want cool accessories.
They can do that for you,
I wonder if we ever will see different shapes and things like that. Like a curve, like a scimitar type lightsaber, or a. I shouldn't give you any ideas, but
like
rapier and dagger,
or crazy straws where it spells out your name.
Yeah, I would like a laser, like a flail. You know what I mean, with 6 strands, and you beat people.
Cat of 9 tails.
Cat o' nine tails.
Cat o' nine tails. Loth cat o' nine tails.
So we don't know if Rey knows who Darth Vader is.
She
might have studied up. And she trained under Leia, so Leia might have said, "Oh, and you know what? By the way, full disclosure, my dad was the second most evil person in the galaxy." So,
right. I love that the people that she meets keep being like, "Oh yeah, by the way, that Darth Vader was my father too," because she was like hanging out with Luke and Leia, and it's just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, but again, I did a deep dive ahead of recording this episode on Wikipedia because I needed to learn more about the Sith Fleet. Because they keep talking about the Sith Fleet. And I'm like, how do they have a whole fleet? There can only be 2 of them. How can you have a fleet when there's only 2 of you? I don't understand. I still don't really feel like it holds water. I know, because it's like, oh, there's all these like dark side wielders who like built the ships. And I'm like, boo. Dislike button.
I think
they're a
cult, right? That's the main thing. They're like an organized.
We're
Sith.
all a cult.
They're not official Sith. They're like Sith adjacent. A Sith appreciator. They wannabe Siths who kind of.
They're just big fans.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I don't know what they're in it for, other than they get to live in a dank cave building Star Destroyers all day long.
That's what I'm saying. Again, like, take a page from the First Order and their amazing mental health services.
Funny you should mention
just
that.
Like, they're really not. You're not doing yourself any favors as the Sith by like, okay, membership is only 2 because we can't stop killing each other, and those 2, one of them has to kill the other one at some point, and then also we're gonna like overtly on the surface treat everybody very poorly.
Although it does sound,
this is just not.
That makes it more exclusive. It's just like, hey, there's only 2, and these 2 are trying to kill each other all the time, so there's room for advancement, and it's super exclusive. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I know I'm in the marketing department for the Sith.
I learned something that was very interesting. That Pete, you'll love this, I think.
Oh, okay.
They have now the powers that be at Star Wars have now kind of the whole point of that there's only 2 Sith is that they are trying to form a dyad. Like, you know what I mean? Like Kylo Ren and there are a dyad. They're basically, the goal of the Sith was ultimately to fuse the 2 Sith together to form the dyad, which will something or other or whatever. Pete, you don't seem to like it. I thought you would have liked that.
Well,
they can
because like mostly it's just like it's kind
plan?
of like a. Well, yeah, it's kind of like a string and a can telephone.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't adhere to the rules of space-time. Like,
I don't remember. What do they do later on? I know she heals. One of them heals the other one. I think he heals her.
She heals him, and then he brings her back to life.
It's like a reverse Romeo
and Juliet. But it's not clear to me though if that's because of the dyad or just because they're both extremely powerful force wielders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's specifically because of the dyad. I think, although then isn't her, I don't know. Well, another thing that I as much as I love this movie, I don't remember what happens at the end too much, but
I do want to bring up, I'm doing a rewatch of the show Orphan Black. I don't know if you guys have watched that show. Very good sci-fi speculative fiction. And was just playing a little game I like to call 6 Degrees of Boba Fett. So we have Rise of Skywalker. There's a Force dyad. The name of the evil genetics company in Orphan Black is Dyad. Dyad created clones. Of course, ties back to the Clone Wars. Of course, ties back to Boba Fett.
Wow.
So that is a joke 4 people will really enjoy.
Do you think
one of them
I
hope
that?
is actress Tatiana Maslany? Call me Tatiana.
I wonder
what was
if
your question?
Do you think the screenwriter of this movie included that as a tip of the hat? Was the person in Orphan Black super fan, or was this just coincidence?
I never ascribe to malice or intentionality what I can ascribe to stupidity, so I'm gonna say no.
Okay. It's like triad, but
maybe not stupidity. Coincidence?
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Orphan Black is great. People should definitely watch it.
Yeah.
It's the 10th anniversary of it coming out, and now they're doing a spinoff as well. I'm not here on behalf of AMC and its subsidiaries promoting this. But I would like to be. Please call me. Tatiana Maslany, AMC, please call me.
I will tell you that we're not going to go into it here, but I will tell you that at least at one point, potentially briefly, she was aware that this show exists. So,
oh, that's nice.
There you go. So you could, there's a connection there to be made somewhere.
She was doing an appearance, and we yelled it at her. We said, "Star Wars Minute!"
We threw a rock that said Star Wars Minute on it at her head, and she's like, "What is that?" No,
yeah.
No.
Okay, well, I'm gonna then distance myself. Be like, oh, that was a different Kelly Anneken offline on that show. It wasn't me.
Well, let me circling around here to what Kylo Ren is doing in the First Order, and he kind of breaks out of his Force call, turns to a stormtrooper, and is just like, "Hey, she was in my room, locked down the ship." Does that stormtrooper who's like randomly on the ground near him have the authority to lock down the entire Star Destroyer? That that like all the other generals and stuff, like the Allegiant general is on that ship. Does like this one stormtrooper can be like, "Hey, lock everything down. It's me, Steve from accounting." Like, why is he turning to tell somebody else?
This is how a stormtrooper moves through the ranks of the officers, by making a poorly thought out unilateral decision.
Maybe he's like the Smithers to, he's like a stormtrooper, always goes around with Kylo Ren, but they know when they hear that something coming from that guy that it's really coming from Kylo Ren, but he just can't be bothered to.
Maybe he's himself. A Knight of Ren masquerading as a stormtrooper, so that
trainee,
Kylo Ren kind of he's like got eyes and ears in all of these different ranks.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, I like
that's what I would do if I were Supreme Leader.
Have some trainees.
Do not vehemently object to Kelly, Supreme Leader 2023.
No cracked helmet there.
We've
been discussing the psychological welfare of the First Order troopers, and here I think this is a sign that they don't care, because they have the First Order troopers getting ready to execute the gang, and with human executions, at least the story always is that one of the things is a blank. Because that way, each one of the gun people can say, "Oh, well, my bullet wasn't the one that killed him; it was one of those other people." Mm-hmm. But that's clearly, here you have three prisoners.
Term is gun person. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time
first in gun person video games.
Yeah,
right.
I almost joined military one time. So anyway, it seems like bad psychological. Not keeping their psychology, not helping them by having them execute people.
What is a blank in a blaster? Even look, what is it? Is it a less lethal blast of light? Does it just seem like it jammed? Like,
yeah,
it's a laser pointer. It just goes like boop.
Woo 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 woo.
I don't like this one thing I don't like about this execution scene, it seems like none of the characters are really taking it seriously. You know what I mean? You don't really get the sense that any of them feel like they're about to be executed. They're all just, it almost reminds me of that James Franco with the noose around his neck going like, "Oh, first time? This is your first time at an execution?" Like, they're very casual about it.
I've been waiting for this moment because
all your life. Oh Lord.
Basically, yeah. That Foo Fighters song "All My Life" was actually about this moment. So I'm so sorry. I didn't go back and watch the first two movies to prep for this because I've been kind of like busy. But this screwball comedy patter between Finn and Poe and Rey is so bad. Because to me, if you think about the original trilogy, well, I mean, I was going to say, you can't really think about humor as far as the prequel series is concerned because there just isn't any. But the humor in the original trilogy and why it works is that it's all very character motivated. If one of them is funny, they're being funny in a way that's very true to the character. Whereas in this movie, just like the whole time, I'm like, you all sound like the same, entry-level improv guy at the Groundlings is like feeding you lines. And it feels like they're going for this like 1930s feel, but it doesn't work because they're doing it like just like a weird Judd Apatow. They just like let the camera run while they were just being like, what are we going to say to Ray? Ooh, tell me. Because and it's like, all you had to do was like not bring it up again, right? This whole thing about Finn and Ray. That's one of the things that I remember standing out to me from when I saw this in the theater, where I was like, oh my God, like, why are they going down this road? A big part of the reason I really dislike this movie is because they did Rose Tico like so dirty. Right. So dirty in a way that is so unconscionable to me as a fan of movies and a person who is also named Kelly. That was very rude. We don't like this. Matters. All right. The Confederation of Kellys was like, this will not stand. So, they didn't have to necessarily continue that connection between Finn and Rose, but to then try and like shoehorn this ship between Finn and Ray, then play it for laughs, and then continue to not really resolve it by the end. I was just like, what are you doing? Like, your jokes are not funny enough to pull this off, yo. And then also, they're all about to die. It seems very plausible that they could die right now. And this is sort of, back on the first day of this week, talking about, the narrative heft of a game of Pong. It's just like, there's no point. There's no tension. Mm-hmm. There's no point where I'm like, oh, these people might actually be in trouble. Except for Chewbacca when the transport explodes, and then they reverse that immediately. And then, of course, Leia dies because it's like, oh, yeah, of course. She was like sick the whole time. So it just feels like, okay, we've got all, it's like we're downhill skiing and we're going around all of the flags on the slalom. Like, we're doing all this stuff for the sake of doing it, not because it's motivated by the characters or telling a coherent story. Anyway, that's my big rant. I think I'm done. I don't think I have any other rants for the rest of the week. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all the diehard fans because they hate it when I come on these fandom podcasts and I speak truth to Disney.
The first of all, all the dinosaurs and orphan black people are looking for that one. They're going to add one more. I think maybe we'll get another fandom in here somewhere later in the week. So you might have another rant coming. We'll see.
Anger somebody.
But I do want to. I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily disagree, but I also want to, let's tie this to, most of the time the kind of goofy comedy stuff is coming from Poe, so it's kind of consistent with his character to be a bad comedian.
Devil may care. Mm-hmm.
And also then I want to compare this with when our heroes are brought before Jabba the Hutt, and Jabba's like, oh, you're all gonna die, you're gonna be killed slowly and mercilessly, and he's like, oh, good, I hate long wait. Like that whole wisecracking in the face of death Han Solo kind of doesn't not that I'm holding up Return of the Jedi as the paragon of cinema, but it's not
unpopular opinion. I am.
Oh, there you go.
It's my favorite one. I love it.
And it has things that are similar. That they're not really. I mean, there was an inkling of his Han Solo going to die in this because he didn't want to be in any more Star Wars, and you knew that. But I feel like it's not too far removed from that. It's because it's modern, and we have those associations. It's like Judd Apatow or like a Kevin Smith kind of like, oh, everybody's talking in the same voice of goofy fun, fun in quotes. Because we're associated with that, I think
it's like somewhere Judd Apatow and Kevin Smith felt a disturbance in the force.
Yeah. No, I mean, they do what they do. Remarkably well.
I feel like we're having a really like conflict averse disagreement here, because I'm also like, I don't disagree with you there either. but it just doesn't feel earned here. And the one that really stuck out to me later in the movie is when they're with Space Felicity, and she's like, "Oh, Poe used to be a spice runner," and like Finn is like needling him about that. And it may just be because the group was separated for basically all of The Last Jedi, where it's like you kind of lose that piece. But there's like this level of familiarity between the three of them where I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, I don't feel like you know each other. And again, clearly, Disney disagrees, so.
Can't argue with the mouse.
Well, luckily, they are spared from execution by the timely revelation that Hux is in fact the spy, and he helps them. He kills the troopers.
Diametric opposite, because this is amazing comedy. It feels completely in character for Hux. He's like, he's so stupid. He's clever almost, and just like this. I'm the spy. Like, why would you assume that they even know about the spy? Like, there's so many layers to his self-delusion that we've seen. And we've seen that throughout the previous two films. And so he's like, hey, like I did something. This I love. It's also maybe the only time I've ever enjoyed Domino Gleason
not a fan.
ever is in this role.
Really?
I'm sure this has come up when I've been on here before. I really hate Ex Machina, and I really despise Alex Garland. And I feel like so much of what Domino Gleason is rooted in that. Like in his appearance, not in my hatred of that movie. Sure. I don't think Domino Gleason cares what I think about Ex Machina. But man, I love him in this role. He's such a good stuffed shirt, which is hilarious because he's actually Irish, right? Like he's Brendan Gleeson's kid. So he's, doing this parody of a British officer kind of, not even having this crisis of conscience. He's just like, I don't want this guy to win. I don't care about anything else except my petty grievances. And that's what I like. That's what I like in Star Wars humor. Han Solo is funny because we know what matters to Han Solo and what doesn't matter to Han Solo. And I feel like with the main trio, what matters to them in any given moment shifts, and particularly in this movie where it's just like one MacGuffin after the other that they're pursuing. Whereas with Hux, you're like, oh, you just want power for the sake of power. We can anchor in that. And that makes the humor hit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe that's my last rant.
See? I knew you had one more in you.
Penultimate rant.
Rants on rants on rants.
I want to know then in this moment, do you think that Poe was just like, hey, sorry about what I said about your mother?
Absolutely not. Poe's like me. Poe would be like, yeah, I did that.
Right.
He'd be like, hey, remember how funny that was? It's even funnier now.
Yeah.
And plus, he's probably insulted so many people's mothers that he can't even keep track of who.
Oh, absolutely.
He said it to. So he's
yeah.
Look, he's fighting the war on multiple levels, and one of them is psychological.
I do think Hux could have done this a little bit more discreetly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, how is he going to explain this to? I mean, I know he
knew everybody was distracted by the security footage in Kylo Ren's quarters. Right, he knew they were not going to be paying attention to this.
They wouldn't care. Pride.
Once the security tape loops back and tapes over it, forgotten.
Yeah.
I like that Hux has a personal motivation for betraying. I think that's a good bit of characterization. That it's does nothing to do with good versus evil. It's just purely a petty personal grudge. So
one that's consistent that we've seen kind of over the course of the movies. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That them being at odds with each other leads to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It all makes sense. It's continuity.
Kylo Ren may be supreme leader, but General Hux is supreme leader of pettiness.
Chief petty officer.
It's like the miscongeniality of the First Order.
So they would actually go for that award. And it's a slightly larger award than the Supreme Leader Award, just to be like, oh,
oh God, I love this.
And
it's all actually a psyop orchestrated by Poe Dameron.
Okay.
Wow, it's levels. Levels.
Okay, I'm done, Alex. You can say.
We cut back to the hangar where C-3PO, BB-8, and the DO have been discovered by the stormtroopers, who are trying to interrogate C-3PO, who is answering in jibber jabber.
Yeah, you walked back the lovely DO, which is interesting.
Yeah, because
I wasn't. DO's lovely.
Well, when I was coming up with adjectives, I originally intended something a little bit more cute. I wouldn't say he's lovely. I would say he's adorable.
The adorable DO.
Yeah, not lovely. So
he's
lovable.
DO.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. See, this is the kind of banter I want from a Star Wars.
But yes, we see the stormtrooper is angry that C-3PO is not giving his operating number as he should.
And go ahead.
Well, there's two things about this that are strange to me. C-3PO has three things that are odd. Number one, C-3PO, who we just saw before, was an amnesiac, unaware of who Chewbacca was, but now he has the presence of mind to lie to the stormtroopers. Maybe BB-8 told him to lie to the stormtroopers. Second of all, C-3PO has 10 million forms of communication at his fingertips, and yet he is responding with what the stormtrooper thinks is a fake language. But then again, the stormtrooper might not know.
Yeah,
a
stormtrooper is racist and insensitive. So,
and that also, protocol droids exist specifically so that stormtroopers don't have to know that many forms of communication.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you would think they would have something like built into their helmets, as opposed to having.
You would think that, but
yeah.
Big protocol droid's been in bed with the First Order from the get-go, so they're not giving up that market share.
Right.
Multi-billion-dollar contract.
Proud of not having to kind of adjust to anybody else's, not to have to even like contemplate somebody else's existence. They're all like, hey, this is the First Order. Speak basic, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they rejected the name The Only Order because that had also been trademarked by Emperor Palpatine.
He
was way ahead
of all the domain names. Do you think Basic is the most common second language in Star Wars land? Like English is the most common second language on Earth. So is Basic a lot of people speak.
Insofar as the First Order / the Empire is kind of meant to be a stand-in for the British Empire, I think that it would make the most sense. I mean, everybody seems to at least understand it. Although, of course, most of our heroes can understand some of the other aliens. We don't, obviously they don't dig deep on that.
Rey seems to be the most adept. She understands Wookiee, BB-8, and another one. Is there another one in there?
A handful of like whoever she meets, she understands.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you say Tito?
Tito. That's just
like
Tito.
The vodka?
Okay. Yes.
They're our sponsor this week.
Yeah. Ray understands.
Yeah.
Call me Tito's Vodka. AMC, Tatiana Maslany, Tito's Vodka.
We can put all of this together. You see the puzzle pieces forming here. Well, I wanted to back up to the add context to what C-3PO is. At first I thought like, oh, that is insensitive of the stormtrooper, just to be like, whatever he's saying is that's not even a language. But turns out it's not.
Definitely goes against the rules of the mental health guidelines.
He should be more understanding.
It's not a language.
It's according to the novelization, the expanded edition of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker by Ray Carson. What's your operating number? Stormtroopers asking C-3PO, and the droid responded with an unintelligible soup of syllables.
Soup of syllables.
Soup of syllables. But
sounds delicious.
Yeah, I'm not a big soup fan, but I do like syllables. So,
okay, what is your take on stew?
Stew can be okay.
Do you think that Is soup a subset of stew or vice versa?
I think soup is stew that's gone too far.
Okay. This is an ongoing, very heated debate amongst me and my friend group, so I will let them know.
Where do you stand on all this?
Oh my gosh. I mean, well, I like soup and stew.
Okay.
One of the big questions is soup a meal? Some say stew is a meal where soup is not a meal, but I'm like, if the soup has, chunks, if there's like big pieces of chicken and noodles and vegetables, like that can be a meal. But then somebody else is like, well, isn't that then technically a stew? Then it gets down into like broth or sauce consistency. I honestly don't know what my stance is apart from I enjoy them both. So
Would you say
Pete,
that?
I'm happy to eat your soup.
Thanks. I don't need it. I'm not a big soup fan.
Okay.
Are all soups, do you eat soups or drink soups?
I mean, I say eat because there is something to me that is so viscerally upsetting about drinking a soup, like out of a thermos. I just, I don't know why it bothers me so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just feels so unwholesome, like flying a kite at night.
But if you were eating a bowl of if you were eating a bowl of cereal with milk in it, and then there was milk left,
that's another big point that comes up. Like, is that soup?
Right. Yeah.
Well, because you're eating the idea behind. I guess it depends on your. For me, I'm eating cereal. I'm leaving the milk behind. I'm not. The milk isn't like a feature of the cereal. It's like briefly the cereal goes into the milk and then it comes out, and nobody.
And you dump the milk when you're done. You don't.
Oh yeah.
You bathe the cereal in milk.
Often for years. Recently, I've softened a little bit, but for years I would even eat it with a fork to get less milk in the spoon, because I don't want that. I want to eat, or I want a solid, or I want a liquid. I don't want this in between nonsense.
The group chat is going to absolutely.
I do not add milk to my cereal.
Lose their collective mind.
You don't have milk at all in your cereal.
You eat dry cereal?
I eat dry cereal.
There we go. See?
So there you go. So it's with all ranges of the spectrum.
Wow.
Pete's the brackish one.
Okay.
He likes some milk. But,
I like some milk. I like the idea of milk.
Yeah, it's a concept.
The concept of milk.
Like to, walk my cereal in front of a picture of a cow, and that's the amount of milk for me.
But then, Pete, when you're done, you take the bowl and you go and drink all the milk?
I dump it over my head, and I'm like, and I slow motion just kind of cover myself in milk.
This episode is sponsored by milk, by the way.
Right.
So,
Big Milk in partnership with Big Protocol Droid. Anyway, a soup of syllables, you say?
A soup of syllables, yes. I say. Yeah, so really it was a ruse on C-3PO's part, just answering with nonsense to Okay. I feel like he could have busted out some obscure languages and been like, well, technically I was answering, but just not. He wasn't listening.
Okay. So let me back this up. So this is Amnesiac C-3PO, right?
He was rebooted,
yes.
And he has no memories of who anyone is.
Okay, so why would Amnesiac C-3PO be trying to actively deceive anyone? Or like, did they say like, come with me if you want to live, and also don't say the truth to anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Alex just suggests maybe BB-8 told him, hey, like, this guy's not on our side. Give him a hard time. Okay. But also...
But why trust...
On the drive over there...
BB-8 is very cute.
I'm assuming that...
I guess I would... You know what? I would listen to two cute droids that were like, hey,
right,
watch out. I'd be like, okay, you're much cuter than me. I will do this.
Now, listeners at home, if you're trying to influence the actions of one Kelly Anneken, now all you need to do is get some remote control droids and being like, hey, go...
or just be tall.
Must kill the queen.
Always think that somebody taller than me is smarter than me.
Interesting.
Yeah. How tall are you?
I don't think it's a good... I'm 5'4".
Oh,
okay. So we're both smarter.
Right? I have a very tall personality.
Yeah, I would say that. I'm
how tall would you have thought I was before I told you I was 5'4"?
I
realize that I've muddied the terms of the experiment here. I should have asked you that first.
Yeah, I would have gone probably like 4.8.
The data's.
What's funny about that? Pete, what's your guess?
I would go the other, based on the domain name. Was it Kelly for Phasma or Phasma for Kelly? I would assuming they were similar in height. So it was like 6'2" or something like that, So.
All right. Ooh, I feel like kind of law of averages.
You
right between those,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With the knowledge, the intelligence of crowds. Well, obviously we've run out of things to talk about with this particular minute, unless you guys have anything more to say about soup or
Kelly's height or distressing blind
melted ice cream.
Melted
ice cream is soup.
No, it's a tragedy.
Can be. I think it can be, especially if there's chunks of stuff in it.
So the chunks are my problem. Anyway,
you don't like the chunks.
We'll take this to a separate soup show.
Soup or not. All right. Yeah. Well, that'll wrap up minute 63. And that stormtrooper who did not understand C-3PO's jibber jabber unfortunately passed away at the end of the minute. And if you want to know more about people and other creatures who might have passed away, be sure to check out Who Died with Pete and Alex. Yes, that's right. It's the brand new podcast from your lovable co-hosts, where we showcase the heroes, villains, and other noteworthy entities who are 6 feet underground. So go to whodied.xyz. You can find there a link to the podcast or the YouTube channel. And Kelly, you want to plug one of your podcasts in this gap right here?
I'm sorry. That's the most tasteless thing I've ever heard, and I love it so much.
The soup?
Yeah.
I'm laughing too hard to plug.
All right, then. See everyone tomorrow on another Star Wars Minute.